So there are millions of teenagers today who watch LL Cool J on television, like every single week.
Oh yeah, millions of them.
And they have absolutely no idea that he is literally one of the founding fathers of hip-hop. Just think about that for a second.
It's honestly kind of mind-blowing when you put it like that.
Right. You have an entire generation tuning into a CBS procedural, or maybe they're laughing at a clip from Lip Sync Battle on their phones.
Yeah, just scrolling on TikTok.
Exactly. Completely oblivious to the fact that the man on their screen basically built Def Jam Records with his bare hands back in the mid-1980s.
He was the foundation.
So today we are looking at how a street-level battle rapper from Queens accidentally executed what might be the greatest, most structurally sound career pivot in the history of modern entertainment.
The ultimate pivot.
Welcome to today's deep dive. We're going to unpack a fascinating set of notes we received, simply titled Day 4, Bigger Than Rap. And the mission today is to analyze this guy's unprecedented 4-decade run.
And it really is a staggering phenomenon when you map it all out because, entertainment and music in particular is basically a graveyard of short-lived careers.
Oh, completely. It's brutal out there.
It is. And hip-hop, maybe more than any other genre, is ruthlessly youth-obsessed. I mean, it routinely devours its pioneers.
It really does. You age out so fast.
You do. But the source material we're looking at today, it isolates a very specific strategy, a blueprint, really, for you to understand. Because this is about how one individual didn't just survive the changing eras, but completely transcended the genre that birthed him.
Which is huge for you listening, whether you're an entrepreneur, a creative, or just trying to build a career that lasts.
Okay, let's unpack this because, we've seen other rappers attempt this.
The rapper-turned-actor pipeline, yeah.
We've seen it fail so many times. Vanilla Ice did Cool as Ice.
Right.
50 Cent did Get Rich or Die Trying. Eminem did 8 Mile. But those are, they're often just extensions of their rap personas on a movie screen. Exactly. They were musicians moonlighting as actors. They weren't really changing lanes.
Right, they were just playing themselves. But what the notes argue here is that LL Cool J didn't just moonlight. He fundamentally disassembled his original identity and rebuilt it across movies, network television, hosting, and massive entrepreneurial ventures.
And the difference really comes down to the mechanics of skill transfer. It's very much like cross-training in elite sports.
Oh, I like that. How so?
Well, think about it. If you are a world-class powerlifter, your sheer strength is going to give you an advantage if you suddenly decide to try, say, wrestling.
Sure, because you're already incredibly strong.
Right. But if you just rely on your powerlifting muscles, a trained wrestler will eventually just take you apart.
Because you don't know the technique.
Exactly. You don't know the specific techniques, the leverage, or, the pacing of that new sport. The rappers you mentioned who faded out of Hollywood, they tried to use their musical muscle in a completely different arena without actually learning the new sport.
I just showed up and expected to win.
Yeah. But LL Cool J, however, he actually submitted to the cross-training.
Think of a career like a house, right? Most people spend their entire lives just kind of redecorating the living room.
Moving the couch around.
Right, moving the couch, painting the walls. But LL Cool J didn't just redecorate. He built an entirely new estate with different wings.
He expanded the whole property.
He really did. But is it just, throwing spaghetti at the wall? How does one successfully jump from music to TV, movies, and entrepreneurship without completely losing their core identity?
Well, the source material points directly to this expansion as the absolute key to his longevity. It wasn't a distraction. It was survival.
Survival. That's a strong word for it.
It is. But to survive 4 decades, you have to move past a single medium. Let's look at the historical context of when he started making these moves. In the 1980s and early 90s, LL Cool J was the literal definition of hip-hop dominance.
Oh, undisputed. Songs like I Can't Live Without My Radio.
I'm bad.
Yeah, and eventually Mama Said Knock You Out.
And you have to understand, this is a battle rap culture. The entire psychological framework of a solo hip-hop artist in that specific era is about projecting total invincibility.
You are the center of the universe.
You are. You do not show weakness, you do not play second fiddle, and you certainly don't share the spotlight willingly.
You're a gladiator, basically. The arena is built for you to destroy the competition.
Precisely. But then, look at the transition he makes into acting. When you step onto a movie set, especially in the kinds of films he started taking in the late 90s, like Deep Blue Sea or Oliver Stone's Any Given Sunday.
Oh, Any Given Sunday was huge.
Right, and on those sets, you are no longer the center of the universe. You are just a cog in a massive machine.
You have to take direction from somebody else.
You have to take direction, you have to stand on your mark, wait in your trailer for like 6 hours sometimes. And most importantly, you have to support the other actors in the scene.
The gladiator has to become a team player.
Which is incredibly hard to do when you are already a superstar in your primary field.
I mean, if you are sitting in an office right now listening to this, and you're, say, a senior director in marketing, but you want to pivot to product development, the hardest part isn't learning the new skills.
No, it's the ego.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The hardest part is voluntarily going from being the smartest, most respected person in the room back to being a total beginner. You literally have to leave your ego at the door.
And that's exactly what he did.
But I want to push back on that a little bit, because making that transition wasn't just a matter of showing up on time and being humble. Didn't he face a massive backlash for doing this?
Oh, absolutely. The purists were furious.
Right. Because in the 90s, the concept of selling out, I mean, that was the deadliest accusation you could hurl at a hip-hop artist.
It was career suicide for a lot of people.
The purists were ruthless. So when he started doing sitcoms like In the House or taking these somewhat goofy supporting roles, wasn't there a real danger that he was going to completely ruin his credibility on the streets? How did he survive that?
He survived it because he understood something fundamental about audience fatigue that the purists just didn't get.
Audience fatigue.
Yeah. If you only serve the purists, you are trapped in a shrinking box. The purists want you to make the exact same album you made when you were 19 over and over again for the rest of your life.
Which is possible.
It is. Because you are aging, the culture is shifting, and the teenagers who actually dictate music trends, they're looking for their own 19-year-old icons, not a 35-year-old trying to sound 19.
That makes total sense.
Right.
I mean, it's the tragedy of the aging rock star, right? The guy who was still wearing leather pants and trying to sing about high school rebellion at age 50.
It becomes a total caricature.
It's just sad to watch.
Right. So he essentially insulated himself from that demographic cliff by learning an entirely new emotional language.
What do you mean by emotional language?
Well, let's look at his transition into hosting, which the notes explicitly highlight as a major pillar of his pivot. Think about hosting the Grammy Awards, which he did for, 5 consecutive years?
Yeah, he was the face of the Grammys for a while there.
So what is the skill set of a host?
Well, it's the exact opposite of a battle rapper.
Exactly. A host requires immense charisma, vulnerability, and mass appeal. Your job as a host is not to prove you are the best person in the room. Your job is to make everyone else in the room feel comfortable.
You're the facilitator.
You're guiding the audience, smoothing over awkward transitions, being charming and warm. To go from the raw, hyper-aggressive edge of early hip-hop into the warm, inviting, universally appealing role of a network TV host that requires a profound psychological evolution.
He had to figure out how to turn that aggressive stage presence into a magnetic, welcoming screen presence.
And he did it flawlessly.
It's almost like compound interest, but with career capital.
I love that analogy.
Yeah, he didn't just open a savings account in the music industry and leave his money there to slowly lose value to inflation. He took the initial capital of his fame and he diversified it. He put some capital into film.
He puts them into network TV.
Right, into a 14-season run on NCIS Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And then he put some into hosting Lip Sync Battle.
And that NCIS example is perhaps the most illustrative of this entire strategy. We're talking about 14 years on a CBS procedural.
14 years. That is a grueling, relentless schedule.
It's a grind.
Yeah.
But what does a network procedural actually do for a brand? It makes you a daily habit in the American living room.
Oh, that's a huge distinction. Because a rap album is an event.
Right. It drops. There's a tour.
There's a huge media blitz, and then you basically go away for 2 years to record the next one.
Right.
But playing Sam Hanna on NCIS meant he was in people's homes every single Tuesday night for over a decade.
And that builds a completely different level of trust with the public. Think about it. A parental advisory rap album is inherently countercultural. It's meant to provoke.
It's meant to make parents mad.
Exactly. But a CBS procedural is the literal definition of the mainstream establishment. By proving he could hold his own in an ensemble cast, portraying a federal agent with dignity and gravitas, he signaled to middle America that he was safe,
He was reliable.
reliable, and deeply woven into the fabric of everyday entertainment.
But adapting his persona for mainstream television had a completely unintended, almost paradoxical side effect on his demographic, which actually brings us to the most mind-bending point in the source material.
The demographic shift.
Yes. We touched on this at the very beginning, but we need to really dig into it. Because of this massive diversification, there is a massive segment of the public who know him first as an actor.
This is where the pivot proves its historical weight.
Right. I mean, imagine discovering that a whole generation thinks of Arnold Schwarzenegger primarily as a mild-mannered politician from California.
And completely unaware that he was the Terminator.
Or this legendary bodybuilder. It's almost hard to wrap your head around the fact that there are millions of people who see LL Cool J as a television fixture first and foremost.
What's fascinating here is the sheer sociological weight of that fact. For an artist who is foundational to a musical genre, having the public know you for a secondary career is the ultimate proof that the cross-training actually worked.
Because it means he didn't just pull his old rap fans along with him to watch his TV shows.
Right. If you only rely on your original fan base to consume your new products, your audience will inevitably age, shrink, and eventually die off.
Because your old fans, they have kids, they have mortgages, they have exhausting jobs. They aren't spending disposable income on concert tickets anymore.
Precisely. What he did was capture an entirely new generation on completely different terms.
They met him where they were at.
Yes. The teenagers watching him host Lip Sync Battle or solve crimes on NCIS, they didn't need to know his discography from 1987 to appreciate his work on screen. They were engaging with him in the present tense.
Based purely on his skills as a broadcaster and an actor.
Exactly.
Okay, but let me play devil's advocate here for a second. Does this phenomenon dilute his original legacy?
That's a very common critique.
Right, because if the rap part of Bigger Than Rap is completely unknown to a massive chunk of his modern audience, did the pivot work almost too well?
Yeah.
Is there a danger in expanding so far beyond your roots that your foundational achievements, the things that actually change the culture, are just erased by your more palatable mainstream work?
It's a fair question, and it raises a critical point about how we measure a legacy. It is very tempting for a hip-hop historian to look at that and say, oh, it's a tragedy that the kids today don't know he recorded the album Radio.
Right, they see it as a loss.
But if we look back at the source text, it explicitly points to his 4 decades of relevance as the triumph. It is not dilution, it is biological adaptation.
Okay, break that down. How so?
Think of it in evolutionary terms. If an organism refuses to adapt to a new environment because it wants to, preserve its original traits perfectly, what happens?
It goes extinct.
Exactly. Its environment changes, the food source dries up, and the species dies. The acting didn't erase the music. What the acting did was ensure that the brand, the physical presence, and the cultural footprint of LL Cool J survived the brutal extinction events that wipe out most musicians.
Extinction events like the transition from cassettes to CDs.
Yes.
And from CDs to MP3s, and from MP3s to streaming.
Every single one of those technological shifts wiped out thousands of artists who just couldn't adapt.
That's so true. Entire careers just vanished overnight.
But by surviving through television and film, he created a massive Trojan horse for his primary legacy.
A Trojan horse. Okay, I love this. Walk me through that.
So imagine a 16-year-old watches him on a TV show, right? They become a fan of this really charismatic guy on screen. So they go to YouTube or Wikipedia to look up the actor.
Right.
And suddenly they fall down a rabbit hole of foundational 1980s hip-hop history. They discover Def Jam records. They discover the bucket hats, the boom boxes, the raw energy of that era.
The secondary career becomes the bridge back to the primary art form.
Exactly. If he had stubbornly stayed only in music, fighting against the changing tides of trap music or whatever the new subgenre was, he would have faded into obscurity, and that 16-year-old would never have encountered him at all.
So by outgrowing his original boundaries, he actually built a protective fortress around his original legacy.
He really did.
That is brilliant. It's like he built a massive, modern superhighway that just happens to lead right back to his childhood home.
I love that visual. And that superhighway wasn't just built through acting and hosting. We also have to look at the entrepreneurial pivot, which the notes heavily emphasize as well. Look at his creation of the Rock the Bells brand.
Yes, let's talk about that, because this isn't just, slapping his name on a pair of sneakers or the celebrity vodka brand.
Not at all. It's much deeper than that. Rock the Bells started as a classic hip-hop song of his, obviously, but he turned it into a Sirius XM channel and then evolved it into a full-fledged lifestyle brand and a festival dedicated entirely to classic hip-hop culture.
Which is fascinating because it circles right back to protecting the legacy we were just talking about.
It does, but it does so through a very sophisticated business model. He recognized that classic hip-hop was a massively underserved market.
Oh, completely.
I mean, think about classic rock. Classic rock has had dedicated radio stations, massive festivals, and huge merchandising machines for decades. The Rolling Stones can tour well into their 80s because the infrastructure of classic rock exists to support them.
But hip-hop didn't have that.
Right. Because it was younger and so forward-looking, always obsessed with the new thing, it didn't have that retrospective infrastructure. But LL Cool J didn't just complain about that fact. He built the infrastructure himself. He became an owner.
He recognized a gap in the market. He realized that the kids who grew up listening to him in 1985 are now, what, in their 50s?
Because,
They have disposable income, they want nostalgia,
yeah.
but they want it presented with high production value and respect.
And by building Rock the Bells, he transitioned from being just a participant in the culture to being an archivist, a curator, and an owner of the cultural platform itself.
That is a massive shift.
It is. And this is a very different skill set than writing a 16-bar verse. It requires raising capital, managing executives, understanding digital broadcasting, and securing brand partnerships.
So if we look at the whole picture here, we have the Music Foundation.
Yeah.
We have the Hollywood cross-training into film and network television.
Right.
We have the emotional evolution into a universally beloved host. And we have the structural business pivot into a CEO and brand owner.
It's an incredible portfolio.
Because he spent decades building all these different wings of his career, he didn't just gain a younger audience or a bigger bank account. He gained the trust of mainstream elite America, which really paved the way for something truly unprecedented for a rapper.
Which brings us to the institutional accolades highlighted in the source material. The Kennedy Center Honors and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
The notes specifically label him a hip-hop ambassador in relation to these awards. And I think we need to really contextualize what it actually means to get a Kennedy Center honor. This isn't the MTV Video Music Awards, not even the Grammys.
Yo, it is the absolute highest tier of mainstream institutional prestige in American culture.
It's black tie sitting next to the president.
Exactly. The Kennedy Center Honors represent the official historical record of what the American establishment believes actually matters in our society. It is the government, the cultural elite, and the classical institutions coming together to say, this artist changed the fabric of the nation.
And historically, this was reserved for classical composers, jazz legends, Broadway giants, and Hollywood icons.
Right, people like Leonard Bernstein, Frank Sinatra, or Meryl Streep.
And in 2017, LL Cool J became the very first hip-hop artist to receive the honor. The first. Not Grandmaster Flash, not Jay-Z, not Nas, LL Cool J. Why him?
Because of the exact word the text uses, ambassador. Being an ambassador is a very specific diplomatic role.
How so in this context?
Well, an ambassador is someone who takes the culture, the values, the friction, and the weight of their home country, or in this case, their genre, and translates it to a foreign institution in a language that institution can actually understand and respect.
So translating the culture of the streets, the parks of Queens, the raw energy of battle rap to an institution that usually focuses on violins and ballet.
Exactly. Hip-hop started in a very specific, marginalized context. For a very long time, the mainstream elite ignored it, misunderstood it, or actively demonized it.
Oh, they were terrified of it in the 90s.
They were. To bridge that massive cultural gap, you need a diplomat who speaks both languages fluently. You need someone who is undeniably authentic to the origins of the culture, but who has also mastered the syntax of the mainstream.
And this is where all the pieces connect. The pivots we've been discussing, the acting, the network television, the hosting, those weren't just side quests.
No, they were the credentials.
Yes, those were the credentials he needed to become the ambassador.
Precisely. If we connect this to the bigger picture, when the committee at the Kennedy Center or the voters for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame looked at him, they weren't just looking at a rapper from the 1980s.
They were looking at a guy they knew.
Yes. They were looking at a multifaceted cultural force who had spent 20 years in their living rooms, in their movie theaters, and in their boardrooms. They were looking at a successful businessman, a beloved television star, and a charismatic host who had never, ever lost his cool.
He forced them to recognize the art form of hip-hop by becoming undeniable in every other sphere of their own entertainment ecosystem.
It was a checkmate move.
He basically said, You might not understand my rap albums, but you understand my ratings on CBS, you understand my box office numbers, you understand my ability to hold a room at the Grammys.
Right.
He translated the disruptive power of hip-hop into a metric the mainstream elite already respected, the metric of ubiquitous, sustained, multi-industry success.
And doing that requires walking an incredibly thin tightrope.
Because you can fall off on either side.
Exactly. As an ambassador, you have to be palatable enough for the committee in Washington, D.C., but authentic enough that the hip-hop community doesn't reject you for being a prop.
Here's where it gets really interesting. When you become an ambassador for an entire culture to the mainstream, how does that redefine his legacy?
It elevates it to a historical necessity. He managed to wear a tuxedo at the Kennedy Center without anyone back in Queens feeling like he'd forgotten where he came from. That is the genius of his persona. He maintained the swagger of the gladiator while performing the duties of the statesman.
Which perfectly contrasts his career architecture with the modern trends we see today. If you look at the landscape of entertainment right now, or even just modern business, everything is geared towards virality.
Everything. It's exhausting.
The algorithm demands a quick hit, an immediate spike in attention, a controversy, a TikTok dance. Everyone is chasing the spike. But what we are talking about with LL Cool J is institutional gravity.
It is the difference between a flash in the pan and building a monument. You do not get into the Kennedy Center through a viral trend.
No, you definitely don't.
You don't get a 14-year run on network television by chasing the algorithm. You get there by becoming a structural pillar of the culture over decades.
And that contrast brings us directly to the philosophical core of these notes, and really the ultimate takeaway for you listening right now. The notes conclude with this incredibly powerful thought. Some artists chase relevance. LL Cool J became timeless.
That line is so powerful.
It is. And then it asks one final question. How did LL stay relevant for 4 decades? And the answer the text provides is simple. He expanded beyond music.
Let's dissect that difference between relevance and timelessness because it applies to literally any career path.
Okay, let's do it.
Chasing relevance is fundamentally reactive. It means you are constantly looking over your shoulder. You are looking to see what the younger generation is doing, what the new slang is, what the new technology is.
And then you are frantically scrambling to adopt it so you can prove you still fit in with what is happening right now.
Right. It is a state of perpetual anxiety.
It's completely exhausting. I mean, it's like the corporate brand on Twitter trying to use Gen Z slang to sell insurance.
Oh, that's the worst.
It feels desperate, and the public can always smell the desperation. You are reacting to a culture you no longer control.
Exactly. Timelessness, on the other hand, which the text asserts he achieved, is proactive.
Proactive, okay.
You don't achieve timelessness by clinging to the present moment or mimicking the youth. You achieve it by expanding your foundation so thoroughly across different mediums that you are no longer subject to the fleeting trends of just one single industry.
So chasing relevance is kind of like surfing. You're desperately trying to catch the next wave before it breaks. But becoming timeless is like building the ocean.
Building the ocean, that's a great way to put it.
You don't care if it rains because you've built a structure that withstands the weather entirely. By stepping into movies, he became a visual storyteller. By stepping into TV, he became a reliable daily habit. By stepping into hosting, he became a trusted guide for the broader culture.
And by stepping into business with Rock the Bells, he became an owner and an architect.
He took the core essence of what made him successful in music. His charisma, his incredible work ethic, his ability to read a room, and he just translated it.
And the specific lesson here, whether you are an artist, a software engineer, or a small business owner, is that your true value is rarely the specific thing you do.
Oh, wow. Say that again.
Your true value is rarely the specific thing you do. The music, the code, the product, those are just the mediums. Your true value is the way you do it, the unique perspective you bring, and the feeling you create for the end user.
That is profound.
If you can identify that core feeling and translate it into a completely new medium, you stop being a prisoner to your original industry's trends.
You outgrow the container you started in.
Precisely. He didn't just survive the map of hip-hop. He redrew the entire map of what a hip-hop career could look like for everyone who came after him.
He laid down the tracks.
He created the blueprint that artists like Ice Cube, Queen Latifah, Snoop Dogg, and eventually people like Donald Glover would follow.
The blueprint of evolution. It is a total masterclass in not just extending a career, but entirely reinventing what the career even is.
It really is.
So let's take a step back and look at the whole journey we've explored today in this deep dive. We started with a teenage battle rapper who completely refused to let the youth-obsessed culture of hip-hop dictate his expiration date.
Right, he saw the cliff and walked the other way.
Exactly. We saw how he aggressively cross-trained his skills, pushing through the resistance of purists to master the totally different disciplines of ensemble acting, network television, and mainstream hosting.
The cross-training was the key.
It was. And then we explored the brilliant paradox of how stepping away from his music actually protected his musical legacy, creating the sort of Trojan horse that introduced his foundational art to a whole new generation that only knew his face from CBS.
The biological adaptation.
Yes, we analyzed his rise as the ultimate cultural diplomat, using his massive multi-industry success as the credentials to force elite, traditional institutions to finally honor the culture of hip-hop.
As the ambassador.
And ultimately, we learned that true longevity doesn't come from frantically chasing relevance, but from proactively building a structural foundation so wide that you become timeless.
It is just a remarkable testament to the power of leaving your ego behind and giving yourself permission to be a beginner again, decade after decade.
It really is. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final thought to take into your own work, your own creative projects, or your own business. We've established that expanding beyond your original boundaries is the true secret to outliving the trends of your industry.
It's the only way to survive.
So ask yourself,
Yeah.
what is your personal music? What is the one specific skill, title, or industry that you have built your entire identity around? And more importantly, what would it look like for you to finally take your core strengths, step off the edge of that comfortable map, and translate your value into a completely new arena?
The cross-training is waiting.
It always is. Thank you so much for joining us on this incredible journey today. Keep questioning, keep cross-training, and keep diving deep into your own potential. We'll catch you next time.